The time has finally come where I take everything that I've learned in the last 3 months, punishing my mind, my body, and my spirit, to put it all into one single project, and that is my first game jam. It was only a matter of time before it actually happened. A very intimidating process to go through. Which is why me, as well as 2 other game developers, decided to unite our powers and to make a very bad game. So the title of this game jam is pretty self-explanatory. Boss Rush. I'll give you about 5 seconds to figure out what that means. Time's up. Okay, so what we need to do is to come up with a game where all we do is just fight bosses. No random enemies, no side quests, just straight up boss fights. Nothing but hands. So I think this is going to be a really fun project to do. This is going to be very dependent on our AI knowledge, our combat systems, and probably a good bit of UI knowledge. So without further ado, let's meet the devs. Now I will say that there were actually 4 of us that started on this project, but unfortunately one person had to drop out. So it was just 3 of us. So taking care of the beautiful artwork and the main menu is our buddy Dan, doing all the programming, or most of the programming. Actually, he did a whole lot of work in this. I'd say he probably did about 75% of the work, and you probably wouldn't even notice. Is our buddy, King Boars, also known as Zero to Game Dev. Also shout out to Dan's channel. Y'all should give him a little sub. While me, on the other hand, what did I do? I just supervised the whole thing, but I also did add in some visual effects, sound effects, and added a whole bunch of things. I mainly worked on the first and the third boss. So King Boars focused very heavily on the main character as well as the second boss, while I focused a lot on the first and the last boss. But mainly I did a lot of supervising in the project most of all. King Boars did a whole lot of work, and he deserves all the credit for actually making this game. I just made it look a lot prettier. I will say that I did help him out with the overall design for the first and the last boss, as in how I want the foundation laid out, but he's the one that added all the assets and made it look really cool. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all a team, and if it wasn't for all 3 of us putting in the work, this game wouldn't be as cool as it really is. So the brainstorming was a pretty fun process. I went over a whole bunch of things and what kind of bosses we should fight, and a lot of things stuck out to me. Space, cowboys, criminals, robots. But what really stood out to me the most was the idea of trying to implement the 4 horsemen. One being about war, the other one being about pestilence, the other one being about famine, and then the last one being about death. Now, the title of the game is called The 3 Norsemen, because originally we were going to have 4 bosses, but because of one guy bailing out on us, we had to scope down to 3 because of how much work it was taking. So in the end, we decided to come up with the 3 Norsemen. Now, there's nothing Norse about these guys. I just didn't want to say horsemen. That's kind of the idea that I was hoping people would understand. So the original plan was to finish the game in 2 weeks. Unfortunately, it took the whole month to do it. There was a lot of adding on, taking off. You do this task, I do this task. I wait for you to do this task. And it was a lot of going back and forth. In the end, we were just done. We were tired, worn out, needed a break from each other. Not that we were sick of each other. It was just so much interacting that it's an introvert's worst nightmare, honestly. So yeah, the name of the game is The 3 Norsemen. And you are a Viking, which we debated if we wanted him to have a shirt or not. I think he didn't need a shirt. I think, making him look muscular made him look a lot more intimidating, while King Boars disagreed with me. So I'm going to leave it to you in the comment section to determine which of these characters do you like better. So we got the main player. He doesn't have a name, but he does have a spear. And he also has a sword, a katana, a red katana, and he can do combos. And it makes swish, swash, swish, ching, shine noises. He can roll dodge, He can stab you with the spear, he can slash you with the sword, he can change his weapon at will, and he has a bow and arrow, in case you're not the close combat range. And the best part is, you can spam the roll dodge, and you can look cool doing it. Strategy. Let's go over the bosses. Now the skins that we use for these bosses are from the Paragon game, mainly because they were free to use, so we just decided to use it. And this is also a game jam, not a real game that we're trying to make and also sell. So this is just a project that we decided to have fun with and to implement all of our Unreal Engine skills towards. So for War we use Rampage. For Famine, I don't think he's a Paragon character, but he is King Boris' character. You're gonna have to go to his channel and actually find his side of the story because I don't really know where he got all of his stuff from. And last but not least, we have Death. He's the most Grim Reaper-like character in the game, and I feel like that's what Death actually will look like in the apocalypse. Now there were a bunch of things that we wanted to add to these bosses, but because of how complex they were, we ended up just dropping them out. For instance, we wanted to add an enraged mechanic where after a certain amount of health has been taken away, the boss would go into this enraged animation, and that will cause him to be invincible as well as raise attack power and make him do some other crazy stuff. But whenever we would try to make him invincible, he just kept on being invincible the entire time, and then that made him unbeatable. So we realized that wasn't going to be fun if you can't beat the boss, of course. So we just scratched that out. So a lot of work that I did was choosing the sound design and also adding a lot of visual effects to the boss's attacks, the way the level starts, the sound that their weapons make, how they sound when their HP reaches 0, and much more. This was actually a really fun thing for me to do because I got to pretty much just orchestrate the experience of the boss fight, setting the mood with the music and the sounds that they make whenever they launch an attack. I never really played the Paragon games, but I do hope that the way that I showed these bosses make them appear as if they're not the same character as the other game that they were originally from. Also, thankfully, whenever you download these assets, they come with a whole bunch of animations and sounds, which takes off a whole lot of work for the people developing the game that we were making. So let's talk about the ups and the downs of doing a game jam with other people. This is my first time I've ever worked with other people, and it has been a learning experience as well as an interesting experience, because you learn a lot about yourself as a game developer, and you also learn the skill of working with other people when it comes to a certain project. I've never been a coder. I don't have any coding experience, and so I know software developers usually work with other people on a specific task. So this is the first time I've ever worked with people on a project like this. I mean, beside from high school and college, I mean, it's almost kind of no different than that, but the thing is that we're not really in school anymore. This is the real world. And I'm also working with people who I've never met before, who are also on the other side of the world from me. But we have formed an accountability group for the last 3 months, and I do think that it was time that we got together, joined forces, and started a game together. Now, I did say that originally there were 4 of us, so the truth is, I was supposed to just work on 2 bosses, King Boris was supposed to work on the other 2 bosses, and Dan was supposed to work on everything that had to do with art and sound with the game, while our 4th guy was supposed to work on the main character. Now, we did have a few instances where there was some miscommunication going on, as well as some disagreements on how things were being handled in the game jam, which probably caused some hidden tension amongst the entire crew. So the one guy that left decided it'd be best if he just left, which also led him to leave the accountability group. Now, I'm not trying to throw shade on anybody. This is probably what just happens to a lot of game developer groups. It's just bound to happen. But there's nothing we can really do except cut our losses and to just carry on with the mission. And that's what we did. So a project that included 4 people, where everybody was supposed to implement at least 25% of the work, turned to about 33 to 34% for everybody else. As the workload got a little bit heavier, that was when we had to decide to cut from 4 bosses to 3 bosses, because the main character is a whole different ballgame compared to the bosses. While all this was going on, I had a whole bunch of outside game development issues going on behind this camera, and I wasn't saying anything about it until it got to the point where I really felt like we had to gather everybody up, and I had to pretty much spill the beans to them, because I wasn't doing this out of love anymore. I wasn't having fun with the game jam as originally intended. I had to really just take a step back or replan everything that we were doing, and I found out that I wasn't the only one. And thankfully, because I found out that I wasn't the only one. Somebody was able to relate to me because nobody was having fun. We just started kind of looking at our project and just started hating it. But thankfully, because we found that middle ground, we were able to reorganize and restructure our plan on making this game. And it was after that allowed us to have so much fun in making the game. Our player finally had like a combo attack. We threw a little tutorial scene. We added a heal mechanic, target lock system, and I just gave Death an OP move to where if you got hit with it, it's automatically game over because that's how strong it is. And you know, his name is also Death, so it only makes sense that he has an instant death move. So what are the lessons that I've learned from all of this? Well, number one, the smaller the scope, the more fun the game will be. Number two, communication is key. If you need help with something, you need to speak up. Not throwing shots at anybody. I'm also talking about myself here. And number three, if you're not having fun, you're not winning. Things that I would do differently. It's kind of a hard question for me to really say because I don't know what I could have done differently. Probably that I wish I would have spoke up a little bit sooner when it came to the struggles that I was having behind the scenes, as well as addressing the issues that we were having amongst our group during this whole project. But yeah, that's about it. I mean, I don't really know what else I could have changed. I mean, my skill sets would have been the same. Everybody's skill sets would have been the same. And honestly, I'm really proud of this project. It was really fun making this with King Boars as well as Dan. Y'all should definitely go check out their page whenever you get a chance. So I am sorry that it has been a good minute since I last posted a video. I was trying to implement all of my time into trying to make this game jam work. So now that that's out of the window, I'm going to be consistently posting again, which I'm also really excited to do. So if you're new to this channel and you're interested in what you've been seeing, you should definitely give this channel a subscription because we're about to hit 200 subscribers, or by the time I finish recording this video, we probably have already hit 200 subscribers. And honestly, I appreciate every single one of you who have been watching these videos and also giving me that subscription and just supporting me along the way. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for the next video. So, peace. Yeah.